So because we're not perfect, our opponents will eventually escape. They will always eventually escape. And so it's important to have contingency plans in place. And so the chair sit was one way that we can look to reset if we're reacting at an early enough stage. But there'll be times where as you're starting to withdraw or as you're still holding the position that you feel that, well, it's inevitable at this point. My partner is going to be escaping. And so you can either be greedy and try and hold on and potentially lose everything, or we just make the smart tactical decision and you just pull back a bit and understand that even though we're giving up back control, we're going to be still staying on top, moving into either mount or into side control or into north-south, and that's still a win. It's going to keep you alive if this is like a self-defense situation, and it's also going to keep you in the game and ahead on points if we're looking at competition or rolling. So, very similar situation, and this is for either side. Strong side first I'll show because we're already going to be posted on the elbow, so we have more base. Here as I'm driven to the side, as Kevin starts to free himself, he starts to get his shoulders turned down and his hips starting to come up, I realize at this point I can't really take his back again. I'm going to take this leg and I'm going to put it back here so I don't get hooked into a half guard. That's why we're going to be doing that every time. Here, if I keep it here, he's going to start holding on to this. And while I could still make the same call of just withdrawing and staying on top, I'm now in a guard. Here, I start taking this leg out before it gets hooked up, whether it's accessing the leg as a lever or just right here behind his hip. So we're getting into the exact same position as that chair sit, except where in the chair sit, we'll just turn this way, move over. Chair sit, we're still able to occupy the space behind the back and keep this shoulder pushed forward, accessing the shoulder to shoulder as a lever. Kevin's starting to get this shoulder down too much, and I don't feel like I can really occupy that space anymore. I'm probably already shifting to a perpendicular angle on him, and it's becoming risky. So I need to make sure that I get this hook out. And so I'm taking this hook out, and now I gotta get that bottom leg clear, so I'm here. So even here, if Kevin starts turning into me more and more, I might not be able to stop him, but this is where our arm triangles come for secondary submissions following up. But for the purpose of this, it's just he turns into me and what happens? Side control. Knee on belly. Move right into mount. It becomes your choice at that point. Because you made the smart call of just undoing a few points of control that weren't going to screw you later and weren't really being useful at the time, we now get to stay on top. If we look at the weak side, the difficulty is just making sure that I can pull this bottom arm out. So as we fall to the weak side here, I'm going to do the same thing of bringing this leg over. I'm going to start getting this leg out. Kevin's probably going to be already driving that direction anyway because he needs to free his hip, so it shouldn't be too difficult to be able to free here. This arm can be gripping his collar, it can be gripping at the sleeve, a cross sleeve, anything that gives me some control on the far side of his body, controlling his head, to stop how fast he can accelerate his body away from me, as well as give me a different counterpoint to pull myself up on. I need to or reach to his wrists to try and free this arm so that I can build up. Everything relies on you getting to your elbow. If I can get to my elbow, I can naturally raise myself higher than my opponent, then I'm technically on top right now. And now as Kevin turns into me, and even if he tries to drive up into me, I'm able to beat him. There's no scramble because I'm in base and he is not. Or I have more meaningful base. So, here, we fall to the side. Kevin starts freeing himself. Grip the collar this time, or the head. I'm going to look to get this arm out. Sometimes I'll look to get this arm out before I even let the legs out here. Because I'm able to, at this point, see how I can lift Kevin up here, whether it's his head or the collar. Take that pressure off because he's going to be pinching this arm. And he's going to be like, no, I know if Rory gets that arm out, he's going to get on top. So he's holding this. I might have to take this arm, migrate down to the wrists, push it open so that then I can pull this away. I don't care about this chest, the space between my chest and his shoulders right now because I'm giving up on the back. I needed that space to get out so I can build it up. And now as Kevin tries to start turning into me, maybe I bring this leg all the way across so I'm going to move right into mount. Just make sure that if you're doing this, that you have good enough base that we don't end up with your opponent driving on top of you. Because if he I've talked about before, if you go from the best position to bottom position, closed guard, that was a horrible, horrible decision that you made somewhere along the line. So as I'm here, if I'm up on my elbow really strong, if I can build up to my hand, I have even more mobility and height. And now as Kevin tries to drive into me, well, it's nothing at this point. I just engage my legs, I curl in, I pull my hips into him, and I just grind over him, tight as possible, eliminating space. So the main thing, guys, is just get your arm out so that you can post it up onto your elbow. Strong side, you'll already be there. Weak side is a bit more difficult, but get it up and look to free your legs so that now you're able to create the space and mobilize your hips to turn up on top. For weak side, honestly, as soon as they win that head battle, I would just bail on that position. So as we're here, as I talked about on weak side, I need to keep this connection and I need to have my head on this side. As soon as he gets his head to this side, I'm losing it. And so as soon as this happens, I'm going here. And then if I want to, I can choose to go more to the side control, more to the mount. His elbow's still drifted across my hip right now, so I might be able to drive him over and look to reset the back in various different ways. But all that is reliant on the fact that I just make a good tactical call of understanding where my control has started to be lost, and rather than greedily holding on to it, I'm going to make a call on giving up some of the control to increase my mobility and reset the position, or at least stay on top in a dominant position.